Welcome to the Osmo Early Bird Podcast. It's your old pal Emac coming to you on a Tuesday morning with one Adam Ship My Money Share as we get together for a three-game Tuesday slate. We've got another three-game slate on Thursday. They're giving us an easy week, Adam, at least when we're doing the podcast. How have you been?
Doing pretty good, and yeah, I'm excited for this week. I love when we have balanced games throughout the week, but it's also pretty nice getting three-game slates on every day that I'm supposed to write the deep dive article. So I'm not going to complain too much.
Yes, hopefully Laffy won't notice, and you'll be able to escape. Although I think he takes the trade-off of not having to do any of the stuff.
Yeah, he gets the entire day off on Saturday, so he can shut the hell up.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Well, technically, I guess he is on Sirius XM radio. That would be Sirius 210 XM 87 for those of you that want to listen to the Osmo Fantasy Sports Show. But you've got me and Adam right now. We're going to break down the slate here for you. Quite a few injuries, surprisingly. Most of them are coming from Cleveland, but we'll break these down here. Again, we are your foundational podcast. This is the early look, which is why we are the early bird. We are recording this on Monday night, so we have a few teams that are playing back-to-back, so that would include the Golden State Warriors. I guess that might be the only team that's on the back-to-back. But also playing on Thursday, we do have Houston plays Tuesday, Thursday. Atlanta plays Tuesday, Thursday. Denver plays Tuesday, Thursday. Golden State, as I mentioned, play Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. So we'll want to keep that in mind, but these teams all get Wednesday off. So let's look here. We have Atlanta will be without the services of Dwayne Dedman. He is away from the team for personal reasons. For the Golden State Warriors, we have them playing on Monday night, but Sean Livingston at that point was probable going into that game with a foot injury. Draymond Green has his sprained toe, but he was planning on playing. And Steph Curry is still out with Cleveland. We've got a bunch of people out. Kyle Korver dealing with a sore foot. Shetty Osman is still got back spasms. He's already been ruled out for Tuesday. George Hill's going to miss a few games with this shoulder injury. J.R. Smith has an illness. I wonder if this is the same illness that Carmelo Anthony had. Speaking of Carmelo, he's away from the team with an illness. We'll talk about it when we get to Houston. But we have PJ Tucker is also legitimately sick. He's listed as questionable. Capella has a sore knee. He said after Monday's practice and Sunday's game, he said that he was going to be questionable going into it, but they've already got him listed as probable, so he should be playing. And then for Charlotte, they will be without Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, who sprained his ankle on Sunday. And then Jeremy Lamb was dealing with a groin injury, but he is listed as probable. Any other ones that I missed that you're aware of there?
I don't think so. I think you got them all.
All right. It's easier when there's not as many games. We'll go game by game for this one. We've got Charlotte. We've got Cleveland. I will turn it over to you. What do you got here in this game that is bereft of talent, at least from the Cleveland side?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Cleveland side's where it's really most interesting, though, because of injuries there. I've actually seen J.R. Smith listed as probable now, but I don't think that makes too big of an impact. Chetty being out and George Hill being out means that you should get a ton of minutes from Colin Sexton. You should still get a bunch of minutes from Jordan Clarkson, and we should see Larry Nance still playing the four, and that gives him, a ton more playing time. It was interesting, I think, in the game against the Bulls, Jordan Clarkson did not close. They closed with a lineup of Hood, Sexton, Thompson, Smith, and Nance. So Nance ended up playing 31 minutes while Jordan Clarkson played 25. I would expect that we see that possibly change on a game-to-game basis, or potentially Jordan Clarkson close over J.R. Smith sometimes. It's a situation I think is going to be fluid, but these guys are still cheap enough, at least for right now, that even if we project them for 25 to 28 minutes, we're probably going to be happy with what we get. And if they exceed that, then it's even better. It's also worth noting that Larry Nance I think he scored 30 DraftKings points on Saturday night. But he was, I believe, 1 of 10 or something shooting. He had 2 real points. So it just goes to show how high Larry Nance's ceiling actually is, given all of the things he contributes in addition to scoring.
Yeah, looking at that game line, he played 31 minutes. You are correct. He had let's see, he was 1 of 8. So he had 2 points, 14 boards, an assist, a steal. The 4 blocks really helped him out. Just a 13.8% usage rate in that game. Looking at the other side here, we, of course, have the Charlotte Kembas, I think is the best way to refer to them. Kemba Walker has been absolutely phenomenal this season. I see no reason not to love him other than he's creeping towards a 5-figure price tag now. That is on DraftKings, and there are only 6 total teams in our player pool. So remember, that is kind of relational, proportional, if you will. But he has been in the 9,000s for the last couple games. Dropped a couple 50 burgers, only 40 points in his last showing against Detroit there. The guy I'm kind of curious about, and then you can walk us through any of the others that you like, is Guillermo Hernan Gomez. He's had some decent games. He ran a nice little string there of 3 in the mid-20s where he was seeing 20, 15, and 20 minutes. Dipped down a little bit in his last one. Only got 13 minutes, only 15 DK points, and of course that was with the corresponding price hike. He is no longer in the 3,000s. Oh, no, gosh, I guess he is. He is still back in the 3,000s, so that's why he pulled up here on my point per dollar play. Where do you think a reasonable projection for him would be? Somewhere in the mid-20s, like 23, 24, or would it be a sub-20 DK performance for you?
Talking about Hernan Gomez?
Hernan Gomez, yes.
Yeah, it would. I think he would end up projecting for less than 20. I mean, the last game where he played 20 minutes against Philadelphia, he got 5 minutes in over. It was just a really weird game. He got 5 minutes in overtime. He subbed into the third quarter after the entire starting unit was benched 3.5 minutes in. I still think that Hernan Gomez projects for like around 16 minutes. Normally I'll project Cody Zeller for around 26 and then Marvin Williams to pick up the last few at center.
Okay. And again, this is one of those super duper short slates where the player pool is going to be dramatically watered down. So this is where we're looking at some of these guys that are 8, 9, and in their rotations, because that's where we're going to have to look for some of our potential options. Anything else that you like here in addition to Kemba? Perhaps a Tony Parker. I can never rationally pull the trigger with Nicholas Batum, but at 5,800, I don't fully hate that play.
Yeah, I mean, I think the price tag's okay on Batum. The issue is just that he's not doing anything. He's not really picking up assists. He's not shooting. He's kind of just a body out on the floor for somewhere between 32 and 36 minutes. It's basically Kemba here for me. I think if you wanted to go to Cody Zeller, that's not crazy either at 4,400. Not the most upside, but if things break your way, you can get, a 10 and 10 or 12 and 10 double-double potentially. Kemba, obviously really expensive, but I think that it is a really good spot for him. There are only so many options, like you said. So if I end up with some Kemba, I'll be pretty happy.
It's kind of like Batum and Jeremy Lamb are doing their best Michael Kidd-Gilchrist impersonations from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah.
Oh, not much else to see.
Actually, Kidd-Gilchrist being out should lead to more minutes from Marvin Williams, so I think he ends up being a pretty decent value play. Okay.
And we should know more about that. Again, hey, if you want to check out the stuff you can get Adam on the Deep Dive, that is the article he will be writing. He writes them on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. That's behind the paywall. Lofty covers Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Use the promo code EARLYBIRD, all one word. Get a free week of all awesome premium content. And by the way, that does work for Slack and the Fantasy Cruncher add-on. The trick I found out, as long as you pick a subscription package that does include a Fantasy Cruncher add-on, you will be able to use that promo code and it will get you the full Fantasy Cruncher. If you don't pick that particular one, you'll have to reach out to support and have them fix it for you. Our next game here, we have Houston and Denver. Come on, we couldn't get one last Carmelo Anthony riding in on his high horse into Denver for old time's sakes, Adam?
Yeah, that would have been entertaining, but it's a lot nicer dealing with this Houston team without him.
So the real question for me is what do we do here with Gary Clark? He is someone that has started to pop. He played mid-30s for minutes in the last game. He does a little bit of everything. He's sitting here at 3,700, and I've seen a variety of different projections on him. I poke around at a couple other sites, and I've seen his ranging from 0.7 to a full point per minute DraftKings scoring. Where do you think is a realistic guess? Because I think he's going to be someone that fits prominently into our plans if we're playing on this 16-player pool Tuesday night.
I think he's closer to a 0.75 guy. I don't think there's any way in hell he's a point per minute player. So, yeah, I mean, if you need a warm body for 30 minutes that probably isn't going to do a ton, then Gary Clark's your guy. But, yeah, I mean, there's nothing really I don't think to get excited about.
All right. Well, let's see. Remains to be seen what happens with PJ Tucker. He is dealing with that illness. We're just going to assume that Melo is out. We've got Capella was dealing with the sore knee. As we mentioned, he's listed as probable 6,400, reasonable price point. Chris Paul at 8,300, and James Harden at 10.5 are your DraftKings stalwarts here from the Rockets. What do you like amongst that trio?
I think that Harden, like the price tag's gone back up on Harden and Paul on DraftKings. They still obviously have upside, but I don't think they project as great plays anymore just because they still eat into each other's projections so much when they're on the floor. You know, Carmelo not being there probably helps a little bit because they can play faster without him. It is, you know, a relatively high usage guy. You know, we only saw Melo with usage rates on the floor with Harden around, you know, between 18 and 20%, but still, you know, he's been replaced by lower usage guys. So you can get more shots for Harden and for Paul. But I'm not sure that against this tough Denver defense, if prioritizing them, unless a bunch of good value opens up, is going to make a lot of sense.
All right. I'm just running a little query here to see what old Clint Capella has done in his last few games against Jokic. Not pretty. Not pretty. His last six, this dates back to March of 2017. He is averaging about 30 fantasy points per game. In his last three, 17, 59, and 15. That's a pretty volatile set of numbers here. Let's just see what stands out. The big game was a 23 and 25 showing in 29. That's damn impressive, Adam. That's damn 20 in 20 minutes. Oh, goodness. We look at the other side here, looking at Nikola Jokic going against Capella, hit or miss. 3 of his last 6 have been above 50 fantasy points. All of them have been at 30 or better. So he seems like a bit of a reasonable choice here. He dropped that 70. Do we even have a name for us? It's not it's what, a 40 burger, or sometimes people say a 50 burger. What's a 70 fantasy point performance? Just, is that a holy bleep?
Yeah, pretty much, I think.
What are you thinking here from the Denver side? Let's start off with Jokic.
Yeah, I mean, Jokic is pretty much always my favorite play from Denver. He's still very reasonably priced, I think, at 9,400. He gives you more or less the same upside as someone like, you know, more than Chris Paul, and has the same kind of upside as James Harden does for a cheaper price tag. Obviously a different position, but you know, you can work things around enough to where I think I would rather play Jokic than Harden if given the choice. I don't think it should be an overly concerning matchup for him. I think that he's trending in the right direction as far as getting his field goal attempts up and playing better after that down stretch. So I really like Jokic a lot. And then beyond that, you have Jamal Murray playing a ton of minutes. You have Gary Harris at a reasonable price tag. Millsap, again, the minutes are an issue, but he showed the other night that he can still, you know, put up monster games. So I think that he's, you know, a decent play. And then Monte Morris should play 22 to 24 minutes. It's only $3,700. I think that he's reasonable, as is Hernan Gomez as a punt. I would rather look to either of those two guys, I think, instead of Gary Clark.
All right. And that would be Juancho Hernan Gomez?
Yeah. Yep.
Because the brothers are playing. They're not playing each other, but
yeah, they are both playing.
Hernan Gomez are both in there. And they both have dicey shots in the rotation. Looking at Jokic, here's a little bit of fun. We got to spice things up just a bit, Adam. In his last 10 games, how many games do you think he had more than 30 minutes?
You said you broke up. Did you say
right. 10 games? How many of them did he have more than 30 minutes?
4.
It was 3. It was 3. I would have guessed like 6 or 7.
No, I knew he had gone through a stretch where dealt with foul trouble and just weird things in general, keeping his minutes down.
But Denver was winning those games. The last 3 they haven't been winning.
Yeah.
The vagaries of fun within numbers. Going a little bit deeper in here, we have Jamal Murray at 6,600. We have Gary Harris, who's just been a disappointment this whole season. I thought he was going to be rising to the occasion without Will Barton, and he has literally not. He has just one game in his last 7 where he stopped 30 fantasy points. That is not going to get it done at 6,000. But wait, we only have 6 teams in our player pool. What do you like amongst Harris or Murray?
I like Murray a little bit more just because he's playing huge minutes. The price tag's reasonable. He's someone that he doesn't necessarily project as the best play, but we know that he has a ton of upside, and that's obviously appealing for me. So I like Murray a little bit more than Harris.
All right. I would like to take personal credit for inspiring Paul Millsap to have that awesome game against the Milwaukee Bucks. He had 31 minutes, 25 NBA points, 5 3-pointers, which is pretty impressive. He only had 4 in the 6 games prior to that total. 8 boards, 6 assists. He only had 5 assists in the 4 games prior to that. The 25 points, well, heck, that took him 3 games to compile outside of that. I dropped him in my season-long team, Adam. It was rotisserie, and I just couldn't bear to have the ineffective performances. So clearly that one was on.
I think one positive takeaway from that game, in addition to how well he played, we did see Trey Lyles play about 3.5 minutes alongside him to end the first quarter. So if that were to continue going forward, even if he gets 3 or 4 minutes alongside him, you can start to project Millsap for 30 and Lyles to still get his 20 or 21.
And that's kind of where I was going to go with that was with Lyles. They've more or less said that they're making a concerted effort to keep him right around 20 minutes per game, which is I read a little blurb and there was really no reasoning behind it. But I found that interesting because he's someone that I like to go to because he's relatively cheap. The issue with him is it turns out he's a lot more points dependent for his upside than I ever would have thought because he's just not getting as many rebounds as we've seen from him in the past. But he has been averaging almost 11 shots per game this season, or at least over his last 10. So that's pretty darn good there for Lyles. Another guy you'll want to have to potentially consider here as we're on the thin player pool. He is at 4,600. That'll feel a little more expensive, but at least we do know he has an actual role carved out in that rotation. Anything else from the Houston-Denver matchup that you'd like to cover?
No, I don't think so.
All right, Atlanta Golden State Warriors, our nightcap here. We, of course, know that just running down the injuries again, Curry is going to be out. Draymond, as long as he doesn't re-aggravate his sprained toe on Monday night, he will be a go for Tuesday. And same thing with Sean Livingston and his foot injury. Of course, that game has not tipped off yet, so we don't know any information about that. Talk about Kevin Durant here going against Atlanta. Who do you think will be attempting to guard him? Will that be Mr. Taurean Prince?
Yeah, I would guess that it's probably Prince. I don't think it really makes a difference, though, because they're not slowing him down.
Well, that's why I said attempt to guard him.
Right.
So Kevin Durant, clearly the ideal play coming out of this game at 11-2, a little bit spendy. You're going to have to allocate a whole chunk of your salary cap to it, but he should be in the mix for the top raw points score. What do you like moving off of Kevin Durant?
Draymond's really interesting. I couldn't really get to him on yesterday's slate, but on this slate, obviously, it's a little bit different. And I think Draymond is interesting because he has a 33% assist percentage playing alongside Thompson and Durant without Steph Curry on the floor, going back to the start of last season. He also, I'm assuming, again, that game hasn't started, and he missed the last couple of games, but I'm assuming that he's going to be on the rotation with Klay Thompson where they're starting the fourth quarter, which means that if this game gets out of hand, as it very easily could in Golden State, that Kevin Durant would be done after 3 quarters and Draymond and Klay would play part of the fourth quarter. So that if that is the case, if that is how the rotation ends up working out in Golden State's game, then it just makes the floor a little bit higher for Draymond and for Klay.
Anybody else that you're interested in? I think we can look to Quinn Cook, but after that, with Draymond back, it kind of dries up some of the value in the front court that we were trying to pick amongst the Kevin Looneys, the Alfonso McKinneys of the world, and the Jordan Bells. It's a little bit infuriating. I don't think we're going to want to look to any of those guys with everybody assuming healthy outside of Curry. Talk to me about Quinn Cook. He had a great game on, gosh, I lose track of the day, so I guess it would have been Saturday night. He had got the start, 27 points, 5 assists, pretty darn solid. He was 4,200. His prices come up to 5,500. Would you consider him at all, since he is the starting point guard on one of the teams with the highest implied points totals?
Yeah, on this slate, I think I would. I didn't like him at all on Monday on the bigger slate, but here, I mean, if he's going to play 30 plus minutes against Atlanta, that's really, really valuable. He does take a little bit of a hit playing now that Draymond Green is back, because Green is another ball handler out there along with Kevin Durant that he's going to have to share the ball with, and Cook is not, despite what happened in his first game without Curry, he's not a super high usage guy. It's not expected for him to go out there and shoot 16 times a game, and he definitely isn't expected to make 11 of them. So with the rising price tag, he's someone that on the bigger slate I didn't really have a whole lot of interest in, but on a 3-game slate, I think he is a much more viable option.
All right, moving over here to Atlanta, we do know that Dwayne Dedmon is going to be away from the team with personal reasons, so Alex Len should draw the start again. How is he going to match up against Golden State?
It'll be interesting to see. I'm trying to pull up and see if he played them when he was with Phoenix, but it's going to be really tough to figure out just because.
Well, remember the Phoenix, they had that silly rotation.
Right, exactly. It's going to be tough to figure out anything from Alex Len game logs because there's just so much noise and looking at anything Alex Len has done in the past. But if he can stay on the floor, then he should be really productive. The issue is just that he's going to be a defensive liability in this spot, and it wouldn't be crazy to see them just go with a small lineup where they have more, like Amari Spellman or maybe even a few minutes for Alex Poitras.
You read my mind because Amari Spellman's going to be the next guy. He's had a couple starts here. Let me see. He started the last 5. His, like Nuke LaLoosh pitches, his performances have sort of been all over the place. He's got as low as 8 fantasy points and as high as 48 fantasy points in those 5 starts. So what you're going to get, I do not know, but he is reasonably priced. He will be starting. I was just looking at what our friends are doing over here at Popcorn Machine. Doesn't look like he is amongst those that are doing the closing unit here. Well, at least in the last 2 game flow box scores that I have pulled up. Do you like him? Would you consider somebody like Bembry? Is it going to be a Bazemore? The disappointing Torian Smith? We've got Jeremy Lin. These are going to be some of our value guys. Any of them stand out more than the others here for the Hawks?
It's tough to go to any of these guys with any confidence because they're just playing such a deep rotation here. In the game against the Lakers, you had 12. Is that right? 1, 2, 3. You had either 11 or 12 guys play at some point during that game. And it just makes it really, really tough to trust anyone because there are so many bodies getting minutes. If someone's playing poorly, they just get taken out. So it's tough to trust them. But at the same time, it creates an opportunity if you're max entering or playing not necessarily max entering, but playing a bunch of lineups on a 3-game slate, because you can mix and match these guys. There's a good chance that someone's going to play more minutes than their median projection has them going for, whether, that's Vince Carter, who played 21 minutes against the Lakers. Spellman got 28 in that game. But, we've seen other games where Jeremy Lin, something weird happens and Jeremy Lin gets 22 minutes. They have guys that can produce if given the chance. So it's a good spot, I think, to just try and kind of rotate those guys through and hope to catch lightning in a bottle, because we can't really confidently project a whole lot from this team right now.
Yeah, on the 9th, they had 13 play in that game against Detroit, and then 11 played in the game against the Knicks. So you are correct. They're going pretty deep. And those are people that have hit 10 minutes of court time. So in any event, This one is going to be something that someone's going to have to sift through. Oh, wait, that's going to be you doing the premium article, the deep dive, and then we'll catch you and Laffy tomorrow night on the deeper dive. Any other thoughts you want to mention as we have a somewhat light 3-game slate for a Tuesday?
No, I think that's about it for me.
All right. Well, we are going to dip on out of here. You can follow Adam at ShipMyMoneyDFS. You can find me at EMACDFS. Adam, I'm closing in on 9,500 followers. I hadn't really looked in a while. I'm at like 9,350 or something like that. That's crazy. My hometown where I grew up didn't even have 2,000 people in it. So, wow. I'm sure some of these are the porn bots are out there in force following me. But if you want to follow Awesemo, you can go over there to Awesemo_COME. That is the Twitter handle. A little bit of a contest there, giving away a free month of premium, a full month, doing a little Thanksgiving contest. So check out the pinned tweet over there on Awesemo_COM, and you will get all of the fine details. With that, gamers, good luck.